If you've ever looked at Australian flora and fauna and thought it looks just like a beautiful painting, then you're not alone. But when today's guest, Victoria, thought the same thing, her artistic nature and background encouraged her to start a business that would combine her loves of art, fashion, and travel to create her business, The Scenic Route. Currently on a big lap hiatus, Victoria joined me from Sydney to discuss how life on the road both impacted and influenced her business. Awesome. Now, I am super excited to talk to you today because your business is just beautiful. I swear it's one of the most beautiful businesses I've ever seen. So tell me about it. Tell the people who are listening and watching this video, what is the Scenic Route?
So the Scenic Route is a little creative project, I used to call it, but it's a proper business now, I guess. So my background is an artist and illustrator. And my sort of career for many years was working in the fashion industry. So I designed prints for textiles and stuff. So I worked in the UK and in Australia for lots of companies and had my own little fashion business at one point. Designing prints. And then a few years ago, I was working full time, but I started working remotely from home. And I just had a little idea of like, oh, it'd be nice to just do, my own prints because I'm so used to working to other people's briefs. And the thing that really inspires me is travel and traveling Australia and the beautiful wildlife and animals and flora and fauna of Australia. So yeah, I just started by doing, just drawings and some screen printed artworks and greeting cards. And it sort of just took off from there. But I called it the Scenic Route because when we do travel, we like to take, as everyone does, the path less traveled and find all the cute little secret spots. So yeah, that's the inspiration for my business.
Awesome. And you can definitely see all of that sort of Australiana and the flora and fauna coming through in your artwork. Now let's talk about your travel, because obviously, this is inspired through your love to travel, and you're currently not traveling, but the aim is to get back on the road again, right? But what inspired you to sort of get out there and think, you know what, we're getting a bus and we're getting on the road?
Oh, look, it's always been a dream, like for many, many years. And it just seemed like one of those impossible dreams. My partner worked in local government. He worked in some pretty like high level jobs doing that. And yeah, we were living a pretty typical life, but then we bought an old Land Rover Discovery from the side of the road, and we just started doing these like little road trips, and we just really got the bug. And yeah, so it just started off as a real pipe dream, like, yeah, one day, like we're gonna do it. And then we met some lovely friends who had taken their two kids and bought a Toyota Coaster and hit the road with their kids, and they came and visited us, and it really planted the seeds. So we just had it in our minds, for such a long time. And it's one of those things, like once we started talking about it, it just would get more and more serious. And then you start actually looking at coasters on Gumtree and yeah. And then we actually had a big change in our life. My partner got offered a position to work in like a really remote regional town in Australia called Burketown. It's like on the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's in the middle of nowhere. And it just seemed like, let's just do it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
So we went up there. So we were already, do you know what I mean, on the way to doing the traveling, and we had to get rid of so much of our stuff, and like it was a real adventure going up there. And by then we'd upgraded to like a Nissan Patrol. So we did lots of more trips in Northern Territory and stuff. But yeah, as his contract was coming to an end, we just saw this coaster on Gumtree and we bought it sight unseen, and we just decided to go for it. And I think because I'd already taken my business up to one of the most remote places in Australia and shown that I could run it remotely from there, I'd already got everything in place. So I was like, if I can do this, from here, I can do it anywhere. So it was really good having that year of, just getting everything in place. And then, yeah, and then we were just ready to roll. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Do you think it would have been a bit more of a scary leap, or a sort of leap that you wouldn't have taken if you hadn't had that experience sort of up in the Gulf of Carpentaria, where you did prove to yourself that you could run your business remotely?
Absolutely, because before we lived there, we'd been in Coffs Harbour,
Mhm.
and I think, we'd done the whole thing, like we actually bought our dream house there and, started to settle down. And so even though we were talking about it, and when our friends came and visited us and we were like, oh, I wish we could do that, but we'll never be able to do it, it did seem like a really impossible dream.
Mhm.
So I think just having that jumping off point where it was like, we were already halfway there, it really helped. So yeah.
Yeah. So how did being on the road affect you running your business? Were you able to run it at sort of the capacity that you had done when you were sort of settled, or did you have to pare things back a bit?
I definitely had to pare things back, but that was actually a really good thing
Mm.
because, you there's definitely limitations to working on the road. And because there's a few elements of my business, but it is mainly a product-based business. So I had to set up, like they call it a 3PL,
Mhm.
like a third-party logistics warehouse, where all my stock is held. And then if I get an order from the website, it goes to the warehouse, and then they
Mhm.
pack it and send it out. And that was like a really sort of challenging thing to set up. And yeah, I think also the other thing, like I used to do a lot more trade shows and markets and things like that. And being on the road, I really just decided to take my business completely online. And that was really
Mhm.
lucky because obviously what happened last year was COVID. So if I had been sort of gearing towards doing a lot of markets and things, like a lot of them basically got cancelled. But yeah, I think there's also definitely limitations. As a creative person, like I was used to having like a lot of space and like my own studio to create art and stuff in, and I had to like pare it right down to like a pencil case, a sketchbook, and my laptop. A little mini scanner. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that was a really hard thing to get my head around as well. But I just had to like sort of figure out, ways. And I was like, yeah, well, instead of painting things, I'm just gonna, hand draw everything, scan it in, and then color it on the computer.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's been a really good lesson because, being on the road, like you just have to learn to live with less, and it's actually much better.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because we talk about living with less and living a more minimalistic lifestyle whilst you're on the road, and that applies to every aspect of your life on the road, and especially if you're taking a business on the road, right?
Definitely. And I think it's been really good because so my partner as well, he's now actually joined me in the business,
Oh, wow.
which is amazing. So he's helping me with like the admin and all of that stuff because I'm fine, like I can do it, but
Mhm.
I'm in the end I'm more
One
interested.
person.
Yeah, I'm one person. And and I think I even read in one of the blogs on your site, it might have been your blog, where
Mhm.
it sort of was saying if you've got a partner that's not working and you're working, you can get quite resentful. And that
Yeah.
did happen.
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, you're having a nice time doing yoga on the beach while I'm, chained to my laptop. And now it's a lot more balanced, and I feel like he's really a part of the business. But also he helped me to sit there and analyze from a completely non-emotional point of view, where he's
Mhm.
just like, well, this product's not making much money, but this one is. So let's, do you know what I mean? Do that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was good to pare back the number of things I was doing.
100%. And I think, talking about bringing somebody else into the business, especially your partner, they can see things with a fresh pair of eyes, can't they? And it's that, especially I'm a creative as well. So especially when, you have all of these products and all of these things and they're your babies, right? You
Absolutely.
don't want to call them because they're all equal.
I know, but it's good because he just helps me make some tough decisions where,
Yeah.
and it's not because it's a bad product or anything, but it's just there's only so much you can do. And like the truth is, you don't go on the road so you can work 50-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Like we want to do something where we can, have a great life and, and work hard, but not be like stressed and working every hour. Like we want to be able to enjoy all the beautiful places that we're going and have time. to look at them. So yeah.
100%. And having your partner in the business as well, I don't know about you, but when I was starting Big Lap Bible, my husband was supportive, but he wasn't in the business, so he didn't kind of really understand what I was talking about, and he would listen to me, but it was one of those things that I didn't quite feel like he was understanding it. Now it's established and running and that kind of thing, he does get it. But was that a, maybe not an issue, but was that a thing that you identified when he came into the business?
Absolutely. I 100% that resonates with me. And you know what? I actually, it wasn't until, so I went and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Wow.
So I had no phone, no access to anything for 10 days. And he had to just look after it. And just coming back from that, and I just knew, I was like, it's going to be fine. And I did, make sure that like anything that only I could do was sort of completed. But just coming back from that, he was like, okay, right, so we've got a new wholesale customer. And I was thinking, oh, we could do this thing, and I've set up this spreadsheet. And I was like, excellent. I just needed to kind of do that, because I think sometimes if you're really personally connected to a business, it's hard because you have such ownership over it. So
yeah, that's totally right. So in terms of what you're doing now, you're currently stationary, aren't you?
Yes.
Yep.
So we've taken a little hiatus. We have actually, we're in Sydney at the moment, which is where I grew up, and we have an apartment here that we've been renting out for quite a few years, and it just happened before Christmas. The lease was up with the tenants, so it worked out well for us to move in for a little while. But the other problem, the reason we kind of had to stop was due to health stuff.
Okay.
So I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him, but yeah, my partner's been having a few health issues, as have I. And that, as you know, is something that's so difficult to maintain while you're on the road. So going to see specialists and, just having all of those things done can just be really difficult. So we made a conscious decision to take, I think probably around 6 months in total out, but we should be hitting the road again in July. And continuing our lap. But I think, it's a bit of like it. I'm already getting itchy feet. Like the first month was amazing, where I was like, oh my God. I mean, like, because just living in a place when you've sort of we spent a year living on the road, and then before that, a year living like in a very remote town. So coming to live, in the northern beaches of Sydney, I was like, wow, it's like heaven. I'm definitely getting the itchy feet again already.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your creative process, because obviously you've been on the road for a year, and that's kind of inspired a lot of your designs, a lot of your textiles and those kinds of things. And now I'm not talking about the health side of things, because that's probably coming with its own challenges as well. But being sort of stationary and not traveling, is that affecting your creative process at all?
No, it's actually the opposite, because it's given me a chance to catch up. And the way I work is like, mainly I just take photographs of things I see. So I'm constantly like videoing or photographing things. Do you know what I mean? And I do some work on the road, like in the moment, but then there's so many kind of photos and things that I have like archived, where I've like, oh, I've got this idea for this print or that print, so it's given me a chance to catch up on that. Like, for example, right now I'm working on a range that's all inspired by the Barrier Reef.
Oh, wow.
Because we actually ended up spending quite a lot of time like up in the Daintree and Port Douglas and Cooktown and up in that part of the world, especially during COVID, where we couldn't move around too much and the borders were all closed. And I actually made a lot of friends who work out on the boats and are marine biologists. So they've even shared their incredible images with me. And it's just given me time, to work on things like that. So I've always got ideas, and I'm always kind of thinking, but as well, like the actual creative side of the business is really hard on the road.
Yeah.
It might be because I'm a bit precious, but I remember there were some days, like especially in summer, in the Whitsundays, and it's 36 degrees and it's 90% humidity and there's horseflies everywhere, and you're just actually trying to find shade and you're trying to draw, and the pen's like slipping and you're like smearing, drawing everywhere. So it can actually be tricky to do that. The other aspects of running, like there's so much stuff, like the marketing and social media and all those kind of things are easy, but the actual creativity is hard. So I'm almost building up a little bank of designs that I can then release, you know, so when we get back on the road, I've got an archive ready to go. And it's really nice, you know, because I can just sit at a desk and inside and it's cool.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no bugs biting me. So
Absolutely.
I am really enjoying that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I do have, you know, but I think as well, at the same time, like I will be ready for some new inspiration once we leave Sydney.
Yeah. Now you were just talking about sort of far north Queensland and Daintree and that kind of thing. And I think I read on your website that you've done some kind of project with sort of a team up there of a not-for-profit up there. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
So I did a project with Rainforest Rescue the last 2 years actually, where I released a calendar and $5 from each calendar went directly to Rainforest Rescue. And they're an incredible organization because they're actually, like, I wanted to find someone that was really doing something. And there's so many amazing, you know, conservation organizations, but they're just like grassroots, not for profit. They buy pieces of rainforest and reforest them.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, that's amazing. And even when I was up there, you know, you would see like the areas that they've bought. So you can actually tangibly see like, oh, I donated, you know, I think it was $2,500 from the last calendar. And and also, you know, do some money from prints and stuff. But you can actually tangibly see like this much money bought this much square feet of
Yeah.
rainforest.
Yeah.
So it really feels like I'm doing something. And I'm currently, I was actually talking to a friend today, and she was like, oh, you need to speak to Rosie. You know, she knows some really good conservation groups working on the barrier reef that are
Yeah.
like regrowing parts of the reef. So I'd love to do a new project with them. And it's so tiny at the moment, but it's something I'm really thinking about, that I want to try and make a difference, you know, and even if it's just a small amount of, you know, the
100%.
profit, but it's going towards like a really good
Yeah.
cause.
And I think that's a good point as well. A lot of us feel like, you know, oh, you know, we're just one person. But actually, you know, one person doing one thing encourages the next person to do one thing, and those kinds of things. And every little helps.
I know. And I think as well, like I'm just learning as my business is growing, I think I can have more of an impact. Like last year was actually a bit disappointing because I always get nervous. I never want to overstock. Like I'm really conscious. Like everything I do is quite limited. So when I ordered the calendars, I thought 500 calendars, you know, that's, oh, I'm a bit nervous, you
Yeah.
know. And then when they all sold out, and then I was like, I probably could have sold double. So next year I'll be doing more. And I'm thinking I've got some other things, like I'm going to start doing some tea towels
Oh,
and
lovely.
a coloring book. Like I've got some ideas for other products that I can
Yeah.
do. And I also have, actually I bought, would you like a little?
Yes, show us.
I've got some fabrics here. Like these are from a new collection. I don't know if you can see the
Beautiful.
little, yeah, the animals and birds
Yeah.
in here. And yeah, this one. I'm doing a little show and tell for you.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
But they're all like,
Little
yeah,
wombats.
beautiful fabrics that I do. So
It
yeah.
seems amazing that you can just literally sketch those out, scan them in, and you just manipulate them on the computer now, or
Yeah, so I
yeah,
work in Photoshop, and
yeah.
so I'll yeah, lay them all out and make a repeat pattern. And yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so I don't know, it's like my favorite part of the job, obviously. And
Yeah.
it's great because yeah, I get all the fabrics. I used to do a lot of screen printing by hand, and actually it's been good being in Sydney because I've found an amazing studio just up the road. I went in and met the boys, and they're going to start doing some more hand screen printed stuff for me because I don't have room for a studio anymore. So
Yeah.
it's going to be nice
Yeah.
having that.
Absolutely. So we've talked about your products, but how are they for sale? Are they for sale for the public? Is it a wholesale situation? How does it work?
So I have both. I have my own website, and people can come and directly buy stuff. And I also have like a wholesale portal where, you know, shops can come in and they get a login code and stuff, and they order. And then I also do some work with licensing, which is really great for traveling. So for example, my agent made a deal with Spotlight, where she
Oh,
licensed
wow.
some of my fabric prints to Spotlight, so they were available on a range of quilting cottons, and you get paid royalties
Yeah.
for those. And I think that's another, area of the business I'd really like to explore more, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So yeah, but I think, yeah, it's pretty simple at the moment.
I mean, that's amazing getting into a big retailer like Spotlight. And I think a lot of people who have a product-based company or product-based business, you know, that's the goal, right? That's to get into one of these big retailers and to get that exposure and that kind of thing. But you just mentioned having an agent. Is that a necessity to sort of getting into these big retailers to have an agent?
I think so. I mean, I definitely, like, the agent I work with is amazing. And, you know, I think it's tricky because I have been approached a few times by different companies, and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm not sure. And in the end, I think my agent is like, with things like that, I just really prefer to kind of, I don't know, let her run with it, because
Yeah.
she really knows what she's doing and she's got all the contacts. But then I do also do stuff myself where I'll directly license to like smaller businesses. And that's a new thing I've started. So I've set up a little image library on my website, and I want to be really selective
Yeah,
about who I
absolutely.
do it with. But you know,
Yeah.
smaller brands that just, you know, do like a beautiful babies wear thing or bedding or something come to me, and you know, they just want a design to put on their range, then I can license that to them as well. So I think it's really nice, you know, to have both kind of aspects. And I think, yeah, I always want to be really selective about who I work
Yeah.
with. And I think Spotlight for me, you know, it is a bigger company, but in the end, like when I was young and I first learned to sew and I was at like fashion college, you know, you would go to Spotlight and be like, wow, like
Yeah.
it's so amazing. So it was a bit of a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And I think that as well, there's been such a like resurgence of people making their own things and, you know, doing all of that. So yeah, I think it's a really great
Yeah.
opportunity.
No, you're just talking about your agent and you know, saying that she's got all the contacts, she knows what she's doing. And I think there's a lesson to be had there in terms of, you know, understanding where your skills lie and understanding what you can outsource and that kind of thing. Have you noticed that, or has that been a lesson that you've learned within your business?
Absolutely. I outsource everything that I can, like honestly, and it's one of the best things that I ever started doing, because when you're trying to do every single thing yourself, it's just too much. So I think focusing, you know, on my like skills and outsourcing, it's 100% worthwhile. And I even think, you know, like I was saying, just with the packing, like when I first started my business, I just couldn't get my head around the fact that, but every order that comes in, like I have to pack it, because how will anyone else get it right?
Yep.
You know, and there is things like I used to be able to write a personal letter to every single person. And it does make me feel a bit sad about that. But then logistically, like I can't just have a bus full of stock.
Yep.
So, you know, and I think, you know, you've got to be realistic. So I try and make sure, like, you know, I still have like guidelines. So the people at the warehouse, you know, they know like how to pack it, and, you know, a little postcard that goes in. But even things like I use Upwork to outsource some things like my bookkeeping. And, you know, if I have any like admin in the past, I have used like a VA on Upwork as well, where, you know, to manage social media and things.
Yep.
So it just goes in and out according to need. And I think with social media now, I've taken back doing that myself, because I feel like that's changed a lot. And it used to be, there was a period where it was like, how can you do it? Like you know what I mean? And you had
Yeah.
to they wanted you to post 3 times a day. And
Yeah.
I think everything's, you know, and your feed had to like look a certain way. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't deal with this. But now I'm just so organic. Like if I'm doing a drawing, I'll take a video on my phone,
Yeah.
post it, you know.
Yeah. And it's
Anyway,
funny. No, it's funny you say that, because I think that's sort of a restriction of many business owners, is that they think they need to do it all themselves because they want it to be perfect. And I'm definitely guilty of this. I've wanted to do everything myself because how, like you say, how would anybody get it right?
Yeah.
And it's been one of those learning experiences for me over the last few years that, okay, I can relinquish control. You know, perfection is just my perception of what it is. And it's funny you talking about being organic with the videos and that kind of thing, because we currently run ads to sell the Big Lap Bible, and our best ad is literally just a an iPhone video of flicking through the Big Lap Bible, and that's it. So I think that there's definitely a big lesson in there, and the more business owners I speak to, this is sort of an emerging trend where that relinquishing control is something that helps their business grow immensely.
Definitely. I remember reading something like when I was sort of starting out, because I was really struggling. I was like, no, everything has to be perfect before I, make this a real thing.
Yeah.
And then they were like, I think it was like, done is better than perfect, because, and everything can evolve, and, and I really wanted to bootstrap what I was doing. So I just went into it. I was like, well, I can afford to buy this, this many things, and then I'll sell them. And, and I think there isn't a thing where people think, oh, I have to raise loads of capital or do this or do that. But in the end, the lower you can keep your overheads, personally, I think the better. But outsourcing is a much more valuable thing to invest in. Than, like for me, like it's so, sometimes I still have a thing where I'm like, you'll be visiting somewhere beautiful like Byron Bay, and you'll be like, oh, look at this gorgeous shop. And I start daydreaming like, oh, I could have this little studio boutique. And then I think, well, then I can't do all of the things that are really important to me. So
exactly. So what's the future for the Scenic Route?
I think just keep going the way we're going, hopefully. I actually am a big I don't want to be a huge business. Like I'm consciously going into it like that. I have, my survive and thrive kind of figures, but really like, I want to keep it small, but keep it growing organically, and just really nurture the customers that I already have. I think sometimes if you're trying to grow too much, it can you kind of ignore the people that are already existing. So keep it small, but like I really want to focus on doing the fabric. I think that's my true love. So fabric, and I love doing the greeting cards. But I don't know if that's a very good answer, but
it is absolutely. But I think that also raises an interesting point, that a lot of business owners, especially when they're starting out, don't really think about keeping it small. Well, they don't think that keeping it small is a good thing to do, or they're always reaching for this this massive goal. But it doesn't need to be like that. To run a successful business, you can keep it small and contained, and in this sort of bubble of what you want it to be, right?
Definitely. And I think as well, like I've learned from all my mistakes, and I have made every mistake in the book. And when I lived in the UK, I actually had another business, and it did start to get too big, and I ended up hating that business. Like it was so overwhelming, and I was working with like Topshop, and like had a distributor in Japan, and it was like should have been amazing, but it was so stressful. So I think I actually read I've got a book tip for you. It's called Company of One.
Okay.
Paul Jarvis, and that was a really good book to read, but it was about how staying small is the next big thing. And it gave me a lot of really good insights on like why it's really good to have and I think especially for if you want to have like work-life balance, and you want to be able to travel and work, you want to have that freedom, and you want to have a small, nimble, agile business that you can take anywhere. Like, and who knows, after COVID, I'd love to travel, to all sorts of places around the world with the business. So
Awesome, Victoria. Thank you so much for chatting to me. I have personally got a lot out of this interview, so thank you very much from a personal point. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners will have got a lot out of it too. So thank you so much. I'm going to put links to your website and Instagram in the show notes for this episode. And I implore all of our listeners to go and take a look, because it's amazing. And if I could, I swear, if I could sew, I would be buying some of these fabrics right away. Maybe I'll buy some for my mother-in-law, and she can knit, she can sew some clothes for my bub.
You can do a baby wrap.
Absolutely. I have got another question for you. The dress you're wearing, is that your print?
That's my print.
It's beautiful.
So this is a print from last year, and I actually had it made by a gorgeous girl on Instagram called One Little Thing Shop. And there's so many of these amazing micro businesses, that I work with. And it's almost like I'm nurturing them because they buy my designs and then they make clothes, which then they sell. So I just love being a part of that world. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite dresses. And it has pockets.
Oh, well, that's all you need. Now, if you've not already, you have to go and check out Victoria's Instagram and website. She really does have the most beautiful things. If you love this episode, make sure you subscribe and comment below with the number one most inspiring thing about this interview.